In this episode, I'm going to walk you through from A to Z how to unlock the next level of financial abundance and teach you the neuroscience of abundance and prosperity. So if you're not where you want to be financially, the great news is that there's only one thing that you need to change, and that is your mindset. Now, this might sound a little bit woo-woo, but it's not. What I'm going to reveal to you is based in neuroscience and physics. And honestly, it wasn't that long ago that I was really struggling financially. I had 2 homes in foreclosure, a failed business, a bunch of credit card debt, a few $100 in my bank account. But over the last 7 years, I went from really feeling broke and broken to generating over $30 million. I'm living in the home of my dreams. I have investments and businesses, and all of that is ultimately due to specific shifts that I made in my mindset. And I'm going to be sharing those with you over the next few minutes. So right now, we're going to take a look at 3 things. Number 1, why some people find it easy to make money while most people struggle. If you look into the world today, I would say financial insecurity, financial scarcity is the norm. We talk about the elite or the 1% of the 1%. Why do they find it so easy to make money and the rest of us are struggling? Number 2, the specific beliefs that you have right now that are still preventing money and wealth and prosperity from flowing to you. All right. So I'm going to share with you some of the common limiting beliefs. You and I together are going to identify a couple, and then we're going to move on to the third part of today's episode, which is how to actually shift those limiting beliefs about money in order to allow money to flow to you. So let's do this. Let's start it off with why most people are living in financial insecurity. And the reason why most people, and I mean billions and billions and billions of people on this planet are living in financial insecurity is because most human beings have always lived in financial insecurity. And what I mean by that is just like we pass down our genetic code, we pass down our belief code. And if you look back in history over the last thousands of years, there were even a smaller number of elite back then, the kings, the queens, the pharaohs, the emperors who had accumulated and controlled all of the wealth, and everybody else was basically living as a peasant. And so during that period of time, we created belief systems around not having enough, around running out, around money being hard to make, around money only being for the few, but not for the rest of us. And we received those belief systems from our parents. They received those belief systems from their parents, and so on and so forth. And so over time, we've created this generational money block. And until we become the generational change, by becoming aware of the psychological and emotional blocks that we have to making money, we will continue to pass that on from generation to generation to generation. And so the really cool thing is that if you're listening to this episode, it's because you've called forth this information, and likely you are the one who's going to change generational prosperity. You're going to take the forms of thinking and the belief systems that have been unconsciously passed down generation to generation, and in your lifetime, you're going to transform them, and that's going to create not only a boon for you, but a benefit to everybody who follows, meaning your kids and their kids, your grandkids, and so on and so forth. And so when we receive these money blocks from our parents, and there's all different kinds of money blocks, what we experience is that what money was growing up is most often what money is now. So I'm going to repeat that. What money was growing up for you, if we want to identify the specific money blocks that you have, what money was growing up for you is usually how money is now, right? I find that to be the case about 80% of the time. About 20% of the time, there's some sort of rebellion against the money block. And so somebody's making a lot of money, but they still don't have a great relationship with money. And so they believe, for example, that you have to hustle and grind and burn yourself out and take your health and your relationships and your family to the sacrificial altar of success in order to make money. So that's not a good situation either. I want you to identify what it was like for you, because this is going to help clue us into the specific frequencies, the thoughts and the emotions and the psychological habits that you have that are preventing you from having more abundance and prosperity in your life. So I want you to complete this sentence for me. You can do it whether you're driving or you're listening on audio or you're watching on YouTube. Doesn't really matter. This is very easy. You can do it in your head. I want you to complete this sentence. When I was growing up, money was blank. When I was growing up, money was blank, right? I'm going to give you a second. I want you to come up with a word or a short phrase. When I was growing up, money was blank. Now, whatever your answer is, I've been able to ask this question to thousands and thousands and thousands of people. So it's an interesting laboratory, a belief systems laboratory that I get to operate in. I can tell you that the number one response to this question, when I was growing up, money was blank, is scarce. When I was growing up, money was scarce. Now, some people say money was present, money came, but it didn't last very long, money was hard to make, money was problematic, money caused arguments. All of those are valid answers, but it's interesting that the number one response is scarcity. Money was scarce because that's what we see out there when we look into the world. When I was growing up, for example, there was money. I grew up in a upper middle class family in Orange County, California, but money meant that you had to sacrifice your family. Money required you to work very, very hard. My dad was an attorney. He was rarely home during the week. He was probably working 80 to 120 hours a week. I felt like my dad wasn't present. And so I observed as a child that my dad was really hustling and grinding to make money. And that was my experience of money up until the last couple of years. In fact, over the last 7 years, even as I started making money, I made my first $1 million in 2017. I was hustling and grinding and sacrificing my health. So I was able to achieve the financial outcome, but not at a cost that was sustainable. And that's why I said about 80% of people, how money was, money is, and about 20% of people, money's different, but it's still problematic, right? So when I was growing up, money required sacrifice, money required hustle and grind, and money also created relationship problems because I observed that my dad was working so much and not at home, and so my parents had a conflict and ultimately got a divorce. So I want you to go back to this idea for you. When you were growing up, money was what? Okay. Now, in most cases, whatever you said is problematic. And it's problematic because the brain is a goal-achieving machine. So again, just for the sake of being able to speak generally, we'll use this idea of scarce. Money was scarce because it's the most common answer. And this is problematic because the brain is a goal-achieving machine. And so we teach a concept called the 5 primary drivers that I've talked about in other episodes. But essentially, the way the human being operating system works has 5 components. Number 1, and it starts with what you believe. So if you believe that money is scarce, that now moves us on to the second component, which is your thoughts on a moment-by-moment basis. So whatever you believe, or the beliefs that you formed at a very early age, now as an adult, the thoughts that you have on a day-to-day basis are going to be in alignment with what you believe. So if you believe that money is scarce, then you're going to be thinking thoughts of scarcity all the time. And just check in with yourself if that's true for you. Worrying about money, thinking that money's hard to make, thinking that money comes but it doesn't stay very long, questioning why other people are able to create financial abundance and prosperity but you're not. What's wrong with you, right? This is how the inner dialogue will unfold. What you believe, you think. What you think, you feel. This is the next step. So as you think thoughts of financial scarcity, you actually experience financial scarcity as if it's happening right now. You know, it's so interesting because even when we're living in an environment where we don't have as much money as we would like, even when it may feel tight at the end of the month, or we have credit card debt, or maybe difficult to pay our rent or our bills, 99.9% of the time, that's not actually happening around you. It's not happening while you're sitting at the dinner table. It's not happening while you're at the gym. It's not happening while you're listening to this podcast episode. It's not happening while you're sitting having your morning coffee. But because beliefs determine what you think on a moment basis, and because we're always thinking, and because we're always feeling what we think, even while it's not happening in the present moment, you will bring into the present moment this feeling or this experience of not having enough or money being scarce. And then what you consistently feel implies what you consistently do. So if you feel financial scarcity, you'll be operating or taking action like a person that doesn't have enough money. And so what that means is you'll make bad decisions around money. You'll attract a job opportunity that won't produce a raise or financial prosperity for you. You might make some money, but then you'll make some decisions or take some action where you lose that money, right? So what you believe determines what you think. What you think determines how you feel. What you feel determines what you do. And what you do produces your results. Those are the 5 primary drivers. The result is money is scarce in my life. And what's so interesting about this is those results just reinforce the belief that kind of kicked off the whole program in the first place. See, I knew it. Money is scarce. How do I know? Look at my bank account. But realize that your experience that money is scarce, the result that you don't have as much money as you would like, isn't actually reinforcing the belief. The belief is what started the whole thing in the first place. But the challenge is we adopted these beliefs at such an early age that we don't remember them. And because the brain is a goal-achieving machine, we start producing this experience. Now we've accumulated a lifetime of experience to justify the belief. But just realize the belief came first. This is not a question of which came first, the chicken or the egg. What came first is the belief. First, it was held by your parents. You witnessed how that belief manifested and materialized into their life. You then adopted that belief, and you've now materialized it into your life. And as I mentioned before, even if money comes, even if there's a temporary change in your circumstance, it doesn't stay very long. There's a lot of studies done around people who win the lottery, right? They win the lottery, they make millions or billions of dollars, and a few years later, they have no money left. Why? Well, because your psychology is actually determining your reality. And so unless those underlying beliefs are shifted, it doesn't really matter how much money you have. Eventually, your reality reestablishes an equilibrium that is reflecting back to you what you believe. And in this case, we're talking about money is scarce. That's also why a handful of people have all the wealth. I don't know if you've ever heard this, but people speculate, if you redistributed all of the wealth in the world, within a very short period of time, it would end up in the hands of all the people who have the money now. Why? Well, because the fact that they are wealthy, or let's say they are the elite, the billionaires, shows that at least in that area of their life, they've been able to align their belief systems with wealth and prosperity. It doesn't mean that they've been able to align their belief systems with health. It doesn't mean they have great relationships. It doesn't mean that they're happy. But when we look at reality, reality is expressing an evidence of the consciousness or belief systems behind it. So when you see someone who has a lot of money, at least in that area of their life, they don't have a lot of money resistance or money blocks. That's why they have a lot of money. And so eventually, given enough time, unless the belief systems change, you could redistribute wealth all around the world, but it's going to find its way back to the people whose belief systems are aligned with wealth and prosperity and abundance, right? So let's now take a look at some of the common limiting beliefs around money. I listed off some of them before, right? One of those might be money is hard to make. And so you might have seen your parent, working a 9 to 5 or a 9 to 7 or a 9 to 9 or working 2 jobs, just trying to make ends meet, not making a lot of money, making minimum wage. And so the conclusion you came to is that money is hard to make, right? And the truth is, it's not that money is hard to make. That's a judgment that's placed on money based on what you observed with your parents or what you observed with other people. But the reality is money isn't hard to make. Money's not easy to make. Money that doesn't even really make sense as it relates to money. What was true was that your parents had money resistance. They had unprocessed money trauma. And so as a result of that, they experienced an absence of money. And the meaning that you gave that experience was that money must be hard to make. It's not necessarily true, but that's the meaning that you gave it. And until you get into this work and this conversation, if you continue to carry that belief, then that becomes your reality as well. Another common limiting belief is something like around money, I have to figure out how to make money. And this is really, really interesting. I have a lot of comments on other money episodes on my channel where people say, well, it's easy for you to say you're a business owner, but I have a career, I have a fixed income. And so, everything you're talking about isn't relevant for me. And what I'm wanting to express here with this idea that I have to figure out how to make money is the figuring out how is not your job. Hey, it's David. Just a quick interruption to your regularly scheduled episode by your favorite sponsor, moi. I want to tell you about my book. It is available on Amazon right here, right now. A Changed Mind, Go Beyond Self-Awareness, Rewire Your Brain, and Re-engineer Your Reality. In this little book are all the frameworks, the tools, the methodologies that I talk about on this show and that I've used to actually change my mind and that tens of thousands of other people have used to transform their bank accounts, their businesses, their relationships, their health, their spiritual connection, everything that you want to achieve. This is the way to achieve it. And Amazon has done us a good one right now. It's significantly discounted. So you can go and pick up your copy, or better yet, pick up a copy for a friend too. There's nothing better than giving the gift of transformation right now. Hop on over to Amazon. There's a link in the show notes. And if you love the book as much as I loved writing it for you, do me a favor, let me know that and leave a review. And now back to your regularly scheduled episode. The how becomes a natural byproduct of non-resistance. So when you get clear that you've got these limiting beliefs, that you adopted from your parents, and you have the tools to let those beliefs go, and I'm going to share with you one of my most powerful tools by the end of this episode, then the how begins to emerge. And it emerges in the form of you start to have different thoughts and ideas. You start to experience reality differently. So you see opportunities that you didn't see before. You start to make different decisions at a conscious and unconscious level because the decisions you make are based on what you believe. And so now you're putting yourself in a different position. You're essentially replacing yourself in reality in a new location. And so that's where you might have thoughts to start a business, or that's where you might be introduced to an investment opportunity after you've already gotten a raise and made a little bit of money and saved a little bit of money. And so then you have this investment opportunity that makes you a lot of money. So our job is not to figure out the how to make the money. Our job is to be non-resistant. Our job is to identify the money blocks that we still carry from our family and our lineage, and to let those blocks go. And then through the mechanism of new thoughts, new perceptions, coincidences, synchronicities, something will occur. We can't predict what that thing will be. We could look back on it and see it, but something will occur that we will look at and go, that's the reason why I now have money. But actually, that's not the reason why you now have money. That's just how the non-resistance or the new belief systems are playing out. In other words, me starting a business that's generated $30 million for me, that's just a mechanic. That's just an effect. But the reason why I had the thoughts and the ideas and was able, through a lot of trial and error, to create a very prosperous business was a result of the shift in my mindset. And that's why so many people get confused and get stuck, is because we don't see the shift in the mindset. We see the how the how emerges. We see the mechanic. We see the strategy, and we go, oh, somebody invested in Bitcoin, so that's the way to make money. Or somebody started a business, so that's the way to make money. Or I'm stuck with a job, so I'll never be able to have the level of financial prosperity and abundance. We create a very limited perspective on the ways we could make money, or the circumstances and situations that create impossibility for us to create wealth, because we're looking at the mechanic. But if you change your mindset, then some unique mechanic will unfold somehow, right? That you'll look back on and go, oh, that's why I made the money. But make no mistake, the reason why you shifted from living a life of financial insecurity to financial abundance, the reason why I shifted from financial insecurity to financial abundance was not because I started a business. It's because I changed my mindset. The byproduct of that, for me, in my own unique journey, was to start a business. But there's a lot of ways to the top of the mountain, the prosperity mountain. So just because you have a job does not mean that you cannot live an abundant life. The important thing is to take a look at, in fact, that highlights a resistance, which is I can't have financial prosperity and abundance because I have a job, right? That's a limiting belief that would be identified and that would need to be shifted in order for you to live in financial prosperity and abundance. Let's talk about one more. Another limiting belief around money is that I'm going to run out of money and that I either won't have enough or I don't have enough. Now, I've unpacked this in another money episode, but this is one of the biggest things I see, is that there's this deep-seated fear that so many of us hold that we're not going to have enough. We don't have enough, and we're not going to have enough. And this is an important limiting belief to shift. Again, why? Because the brain is a goal-achieving machine. So if you're concerned that you don't have enough, or you believe that you won't have enough in the future, basically you're right. That's the reality that you're going to create, right? That's why Henry Ford said something like, the man who thinks he can and the man who thinks he can't are both right. And so it's very important, if you're consistently worried about running out of money or not having enough, that number one, you become aware that this is one of your family money blocks, and number two, that you shift it. Let's talk about how to shift it. One of the things that I realized in my own personal growth journey that's been tremendously helpful for me, because I'd been working with my beliefs for a long, long time, and I found it very, very difficult. Why? Well, because when you believe something, essentially that's all you're paying attention to is evidence for the fact that the belief is true. Neuroscience tells us this. Neuroscience tells us that about 88% of your reality you ignore, and you only pay attention to about 12% of your reality. Well, what 12% do you pay attention to? It's whatever's in alignment with what you believe. And so there's evidence all around us all the time that money is easy to make, that money flows to us, that prosperity and abundance is our birthright, that we don't have to work hard to make money, that making money can be fun. But we ignore all of that, and we focus on this very small sliver of reality that simply aligns with what it is that we believe. And so we can see how inherently that becomes problematic, because you're wanting to change your belief, but you're just accumulating more and more evidence for why what you believe, this limiting belief, is true. Well, number one, it's important to understand that, because then you can sort of step out of this matrix and go, oh, wow, like the only reason why I have all this evidence is because I've been believing this thing. That's how the brain works. It's how the human being operating system works. But number two, and one of the really empowering distinctions that I realize and that I now teach in all of our frameworks and our live events and our coaching programs, is that beliefs are decisions. So I'm going to say that one more time because it's a really, really good distinction, but it's so simple that I don't want you to miss it. Beliefs are decisions. So what happened when you were younger is you unconsciously decided, based on your observation of mom or dad, that money was scarce. And since that's what you decided, that's what you experienced. But now, as an adult, being aware that you have this limiting belief, you've got an ability to respond to this limiting belief, to change this limiting belief. And the way that you do that, one way that you do that, a very powerful way that you do that, is to realize that beliefs are decisions and to decide something new. You have an ability to respond, or what some people might refer to as a response ability, when you identify a family money block, to take a look at that and to decide, make a new decision. Making a new decision is the same thing as making a new belief. Okay? And so a lot of people say to me, well, what decision should I make? And my answer is, well, if your brain is a goal-achieving machine, then it just makes sense that whatever new decision you make about money or about yourself or about your current financial situation, it should be in alignment with the vision that you have for your financial future, for a future of prosperity and a future of abundance, right? In other words, if your decisions determine your reality, if your beliefs create your reality, then let's just look at the reality that we want and reverse engineer a decision that's in alignment with it. So what are some new money decisions? A decision would be, hey, money is energy and I'm an energy attractor. When there are no blocks, I align myself with the frequency of money. I know that will materialize into thoughts and ideas and synchronicities. And I'll also give it time as my reality shifts without undeciding. Now, that's kind of like an incantation, right? But you could decide that money is easy to make. You could decide that abundance flows to you. You can decide that you've always had enough. That's one of the powerful new decisions that I made, is when I realized I had a family money block or a limiting belief that I either didn't have enough or I wasn't going to have enough. I took a deep look at that and I realized, wow, I've actually always had enough. I have enough and I will always have enough. I've always been provided for. I've always had a roof over my head. Even people who don't have a roof over their head have enough. In other words, enough to survive. Because if you really look at the fear is that you're going to die if you don't have enough money. Another way that I've always had enough, for example, is, even in difficult times, I've had food on my table. I've had the relationships with the support around me. Even when I wasn't aware of it, I was being taken care of by my higher power. There's a number of passages in scripture where, God is basically informing us that, hey, like, I take care of the sparrows, I take care of the birds, I take care of the flowers. Why would I not take care of you? And so if you really look at it, and I think this is a powerful realignment to establish, you've always had enough, you have enough, and you will always have enough. Now, that doesn't mean that you don't want more. I totally understand that. But that's different than this incessant fear that you're not going to have enough, or it's going to run out, because it's never happened in your life. And again, the challenge is your brain is a goal-achieving machine. So if you believe that you don't have enough, that will be your experience. You can literally create this illusion that you're on the brink of running out if you believe that you won't have enough or that you don't have enough. And so my point is, when you identify a limiting belief like that, you can make a new decision. I've always had enough, I have enough, and I will always have enough. And so this is a really powerful tool, understanding that beliefs are decisions and that you can just make a new decision when you identify a limiting belief. What decision do you make? It's almost 100% of the time the opposite of the limiting belief. And then there's this question again of, yeah, but don't I need to know how I'm going to make more money or create financial abundance or prosperity? And my advice to you is, no, don't worry about the how. The how is a natural byproduct of this new belief system, because as you hold this new belief or this new decision for a short period of time, your reality will start to shift. You'll have different thoughts, you'll have different ideas. That will become the how. You'll perceive situations and circumstances and opportunities differently. so there will become more available to you. You'll create coincidences and synchronicities because you're thinking differently. You're putting out a different vibration. You're attracting different scenarios into your life. And over a short period of time, everything will change. And it's very important to understand that there is this short period of time where things change, because oftentimes when people are working on their money beliefs, they make a decision that, abundance and prosperity flows to them, or that money is easy to make, or that they've always had enough, they have enough, and they will always have enough. And then 2 weeks later, something shows up that threatens their financial insecurity. But realize that that's because those are the thoughts that you've been having still materializing in your short-term future. In other words, what you're experiencing right now is old news. It's based off of what you've been thinking historically. It takes a little while for thoughts to materialize. And so what may happen over the next couple of weeks or a short period of time is you continue to experience evidence of financial insecurity or a lack of abundance because it's old thoughts that are still playing out. But if you're willing to be patient, you're willing to stay loyal to this new decision that you've made, then given a short period of time, things will begin to change, right? How will they begin to change? We don't know. That's why our job is not to figure out the how. It's just to be a part of this materialization process. And we do that by changing our mind. But it could play out as you get a raise at work, or you get a refund from your insurance company, or there's an investment opportunity that shows up and you've got just enough in your bank account to be able to participate in that investment opportunity. Or maybe you do have a business idea and you end up starting a business. My encouragement is don't limit how it can play out, right? Because the how is not your job. Focus on what you do have and focus on your new decisions and your new belief system, and then watch as your reality begins to change. One of the things that I encourage people to remind themselves of, and that I think is a universal truth, is that if you want to have a life you love, love the life you have. If you want to have a bank account you love the bank account you have. Because when you're in appreciation and gratitude, and this is one of the reasons why it's so important to be in appreciation and gratitude, you're in a state of non-resistance. That's an indication that there's no limiting belief that's active. And so if you can just appreciate that which you have right now, knowing that more is on the way, and you can identify any of the family money blocks and resistances as limiting beliefs, and understand that beliefs are decisions and make some new decisions, and to start to look for evidence of those new decisions being true in your life, like what evidence do you have that you've always had enough? What evidence do you have that actually money is easy to make, times in your life when that's occurred? What evidence do you have that prosperity and abundance is your birthright, right? What evidence do you have that there's nothing wrong with you compared to other people who have wealth, other than you've been believing something different, and you can change your belief and you can have wealth just like them? But if you can just be in alignment, in appreciation with where you're at, then where you want to be will radically emerge. But if you're always thinking that money is somewhere off in the future, it's always going to be somewhere off in the future. If you think that prosperity is somewhere off in the future, it's always going to be somewhere off in the future. So again, maybe write this down, because I think it's a good writer downer, right? To have a bank account you love the bank account you have. So that's a quick masterclass, but we went deep over a pretty short period of time. Take some time to contemplate this. Maybe come back and listen to the episode a second time. If you love the episode and there's somebody in your life who needs to hear it, absolutely share it. Do me a favor. If you're listening on the audio platforms and you haven't subscribed yet, subscribe and leave me a rating or a review. If you're listening on YouTube, I love to read your comments and try to answer as many questions as I can. Do that. Leave me a comment. Like, this is just what I think. What do you think? And what have you identified as a potential opportunity for improvement around your belief systems? What's a limiting belief you've identified and a new decision you could make? And if you haven't subscribed yet, subscribe and hit that bell icon so that we can continue on this journey together. So I love you so much. There's several other episodes I've done around releasing money blocks. Those would be great to listen to as well. And I just appreciate you being here. You know, I know that if I was able to go from where I was to where I am, then absolutely, if not more so, that is possible for you. And I'm 100% committed to supporting you in achieving whatever it is that you desire, and together working on not only changing our lives, but changing the world. I love you very much, and I will see you in the next episode. Hey, it's David. Hop on over to davidbear.com. Click right here. There's also a link in the show notes, and sign up for our newsletter. You'll get immediate access to my free Mind Hack ebook, as well as a couple of trainings to help you master the inner game. This is a great way to stay informed and be a part of our community and be notified of special announcements. Click below, head on over to the website, get subscribed. If you loved this video, make sure you check out this one or this one, and I will see you in the next video.